Hey, thanks for being with me here on the Move It Man channel. I'm Justin Check, certified personal trainer, certified corrective exercise specialist. I'm going to go through a yoga Pilates flow with you guys today. And we're going to be using a stretch strap. And if you don't have a stretch strap, that's fine. Any standard large bath towel will work too, so we can get some good leveraging from the feet. We're going to spend a lot of time on the Lumbo-Pelvic-Hip-Complex in this flow today. All of the muscles around our hip structure. Why? The hips are the universal joint in the body. Something is out of whack in the hips, everything above and below in the chain is going to be altered, and it's going to cause improper movement patterns, dysfunctional movement patterns, movement compensations, etc. It's going to lead to chronic pain and or acute injuries. Corrective exercise, it's what we're doing. So we think of yoga and mat Pilates as a way of just stretching or maybe finding more mindfulness. But there's more to it than that. It's about mechanics and optimizing our mechanics so that we move as efficiently as possible. And this is a great tool for us to do some corrective exercise with. No shoes, get your mat out. Make sure you set yourself up in a position where you can see me easily. We're going to be down on the floor a lot. And remember to modify as needed. Nothing past a 7 to 8 of moderate discomfort when we do stretch as far as the strain. Never sharp pain. And of course, if something doesn't feel right, simply don't do it. Go ahead and get yourself set up, guys. Lay yourself back. Keep your strap or your large bath towel close by. Take yourself back one vertebrae at a time. And let's start nice and easy. Hug the knees into the chest so that that tailbone lifts up, and just start taking a few nice long deep breaths. I want you to hug your knees into your body as firmly as you can with each exhale. We're going to really press the back into the mat, and then we're going to just start moving the hips a little bit side to side as we hug the knees in. Just feel your tailbone and low back just kind of massaging across the mat. Keep the deep breaths going. The breathing, really, really important. Really helps with the stretching, helps with that body awareness, that mindfulness. We're always trying to move with purpose, move with precision, move fluidly, and moving with the breath always. Keep the breaths going. We're hugging the knees in. We're squeezing the abs in. We're pressing our back as firmly into the mat as you can. We're taking those rocks up a little bit more and more as we go through them here. Just massaging the back out. Make sure your tailbone is lifting up off the floor a hair. That's how we know we're in a good neutral spine position. We're taking all the shear load and force, decompressing the spine, taking all of that load off of it. Let's do a couple more deep belly breaths. One more time, hugging those knees in as firmly as you can and massaging the back side to side. All right, let's take the left leg down to the floor. Keep the right knee over your hip at 90, and we're going to put the right arm straight out to the side with the palm up. I want you to reach out through those right fingers, turn your head, look down your right arm. We're going to use that left hand and arm to guide that knee across the body, keeping it at 90 degrees. When we have the knee at 90 degrees, we're going to be focusing a lot of our efforts as far as the stretch and movement on the back of the hip. It's our single lying hip twist pose. I'm using that left hand. I'm anchoring my right shoulder down as I use my left hand to guide that knee over. This right shoulder is our anchor point that gives us leverage for this posterior hip stretch. Glute medius, piriformis is where we're stretching those smaller muscles in the back side of the hip, ones that tend to get tight. And we're relaxing more and more with each exhale. We're taking those deep belly breaths in. We're holding on to them and we're blowing them out with control, and we are working through the sticking points. So we're going to practice that with every stretch that we do today. Let's give it one more nice long deep breath. Slide your right arm up the floor as high as you can without it coming off. Reach through those fingers as you look down the right arm. And on that exhale, let's take that knee over just a little bit more if and when you feel ready. Perfect. Bring your knee back over your hip nice and slow. Extend it down straight. Bring your left knee over your hip. Let's follow the same cues. Left arm out to the side. Turn your head. Look down your left arm. Keep that knee at 90 degrees as you guide it across the body slowly. Remember, there's nothing fast about these types of flows. We're moving with purpose. We're listening to our body. We're not assuming anything. Each day is different. Each side of the body is different, especially in the hips. I've been coaching and helping people with their goals for 13 years. I've not come across a single person yet who has perfect symmetry as far as their mechanics and perfect balance. Doesn't matter if you're a world-class athlete or if you're somebody brand new to exercise who's sedentary. Everybody requires corrective exercise. We all have things about our mechanics that we need to be methodical about approaching. Still breathing through it. Let's take 1 or 2 more belly breaths. Slide that left arm up a little higher if you can. Make sure that left shoulder stays anchored as you slide your arm up, as you reach through those fingers. We're getting that stretch all the way from the pec minor, the upper chest, front of the shoulder, where that pec minor muscle ties in, all the way down the trunk, into the back of this top left hip, and into the low back, that big QL low back erector muscle. We're getting a really good stretch. One more breath, and then we're going to put these together, make it a little more dynamic. Okay, return your knee back over your hip slowly. Put your feet under your hips, under your knees, about shoulder width, like so. Let's stretch those arms back 45 degrees from the shoulders with the palms up. We're going to anchor the shoulders down again, and then we're going to just push the knees side to side. When you go to the left, reach through your right fingers. Take a breath in as you bring the knees back over the hips. Exhale as you push the knees to the right and reach through the left fingers. Keep going. Here we go. Inhale up. Exhale down. We're going to try to get that outer bottom knee. Inhale up. Exhale as you push down. Keep moving at your pace with your breath. We're going to try to get that outer bottom knee to the floor, and then we're going to actively push that top knee down as we reach through the fingers. We're trying to get that top knee as far away from our fingertips as we can. We're pushing and reaching. Keep them going. Stack those knees a little bit more and a little bit more as you go through them. We're getting some good movement in the low back and the back of the hip, so SI joint. We're actively stretching the same area, glute medius, piriformis, QL, low back erectors. We're putting it all together, and we're moving fluidly with the breath. Exhale as you push down, reach. Inhale up. Exhale down, push and reach. Let's do a couple more on each side. Find that rhythm. One more time each side, as far as you can push those knees over. Last one. Double hip twist with the feet down. Oh, great. Bring the feet up. Grab your ankles with your hands. We're going to open up the inner thighs, inner hips. This is our happy baby position. I'm grabbing onto my feet with leverage. I'm pushing my elbows out against my knees and inner thighs until I feel that big stretch in my inner thighs, the adductor complex, all those inner thigh muscles, up into my inner hips and groin. Let's add in a little movement with the feet. We're in a good position here. We're still pushing the knees out. We're still stretching the inner thighs, opening up the inner hips. And now I'm circling my feet in to out as I scrunch my toes. I'm rounding through the ankles. I'm scrunching my toes. I'm getting every little snap, crackle, pop, and adjustment out that I can. My ankles, feet, and toes. Pressing the back firmly into the mat as we push the knees out, as we circle the feet. We're going to change directions. Let's go out to in. Let's hit those ankles, feet, and toes from every direction we can, getting out all of those cracks and pops, every little one you can. I think we're very unmindful of our feet, and so much of our kinetic chain above is influenced by our feet and our mechanics and foot health. Let's give it one more breath. And we're going to go into our strap sequence. We want to get those feet worked out until we put our strap or our large bath towel on. If you have a stretch strap like me, that's great. Otherwise, grab your bath towel. Let's start with the right leg down straight. I want you to take your stretch strap or your bath towel, or maybe you just found a piece of rope, whatever you can, and you're going to hook it onto your left foot, right at the base of your toes, not on your toes, but as high as you can get on your foot between the midfoot and base of your toes. That is going to be the ideal leverage point. The reason I use the strap a ton, so very common, tight hamstrings, tight IT bands, we hear that all the time. And not only sedentary people who sit a lot or have a desk job and maybe they have been at a computer for years and years and years, for hours and hours a day, most days of the week, or perhaps you're a runner and you've got maybe IT band syndrome or runner syndrome going on. Either way, the strap is going to really allow us to leverage from the best place possible to work on these really tight posterior leg muscles. Not only that, but the benefit of using a strap and leveraging from the foot as opposed to pulling with your arms above the knee or even standing and doing a forward fold is this is going to allow us to get down into those lower leg muscles. Achilles tendon, soleus, peroneals, posterior tibialis, the whole calf complex, the attachment points of the hamstrings and IT band, particularly bicep femoris, that really big lateral hamstring muscle. We've got our strap on, we're relaxing our right leg down. We're going to take this nice and slow, one step at a time. We always do it one step at a time to make sure we do it right. Right leg is down straight, relaxed and heavy. Hips and low back are relaxed and heavy. Our knee is fully extended. You don't need to lock it aggressively, but you want it fully extended, toes in line with the knee, and now we're going to pull our toes towards our kneecap. We're going to flex our foot towards the body. Once you've gone through all those steps and cues, now we're going to work our leg up over the hip as high as you can. And remember, 90 degrees at the hip and femur, 90 degrees at the upper leg is proper full range of motion for proper movement patterns. We're going to find that sticking point, which I have. We're going to relax. We're going to take that initial belly breath or two into it. We're going to continue to try to relax. We're going to not fight the stretch. We're going to take all of the tension and tonus out of the rest of our body. We're going to let everything get heavy and relaxed as much as possible so we get better, deeper stretches. Keeping that knee straight, working through the sticking point on the exhales. Toes are still flexed towards the knee. I'm getting that stretch all the way from the back of my ankle, all the way into the back of the thigh. We're going to add in some steps one by one here. First thing we're going to do is take the strap in our right hand. So remember, we have the strap on our left foot and leg up, right hand. Put your left arm to your side. You're going to turn your toes in towards the midline of your body as far as you can while maintaining all of the cues I gave you. Knee is still straight, toes are still flexed and pulling towards the knee. And then we turn those toes in. So now we're really focusing on these lateral gastroc attachment points of the IT band and bicep femoris hamstring muscle, by the way, which attach below the knee So if we have any bend in that knee, those attachment points that are the ones that tend to get really tight and overactive are not going to get properly stretched. It's not the belly of the hamstrings up here that typically gets really tight and overactive. It's these lower attachment points and even the upper attachment point into the glutes. We're going to give this a couple of more breaths, and then we're going to add in one more move. We still have the strap in the right hand. Keep the left arm and shoulder anchored out. And now we're going to rotate the hip, just like we did when we had the knee bent at 90 degrees. But now we're going to really let that stretch move up higher into the IT band, higher into the bicep femoris hamstring muscle. We're going to find our next sticking point. We're slowly guiding that leg over with the right hand and arm. We've got good leverage on the strap. We're keeping it tight. Just like if we were fishing, we want tight line the whole time. We're keeping leverage on the foot the whole time. Keeping that left shoulder anchored down. And boy, if you can get that leg over high enough or far enough, you really will get that stretch all the way up into the back of the hip and low back again, not just that IT band and bicep femoris area. We're going to give this a few more breaths. And remember, the purpose of the long belly breaths is primarily because all the research proves that it takes at least 20 to 30 seconds of holding a strain at your furthest range of motion, at that sticking point, before your nervous system responds and tells those muscles to reduce their tonus and to relax. 20 to 30 seconds of holding a strain before you really get any major or significant benefit from doing the stretch. We're going to give that one more breath. Good. We're going to return the leg back over the hip slowly. We're going to take the strap in the left hand. So we just spent all that time and effort primarily on the IT band, lateral hamstring muscle on the outer side, outer back side of the leg. We're going to move to the inner side of the leg. Put your right arm out to your side. We're going to point the toes out to the left now. We're going to let the foot pronate just to kind of open up the inner hip and thigh. And same thing, on your breath, we're going to slowly guide that leg out to find our sticking point as far out to the left as you can. Make sure you've anchored your right shoulder, right hip and leg down. We're not rotating or rolling. We're keeping the right side of our body heavy and flat as we guide that leg out into the adductor stretch, inner thigh all the way up into the inner hip and groin area again. We're going to give it our belly breaths. We're going to give it that 20 to 30 second window before we move on to the other side. One more nice long deep belly breath. You can bend your knee to make it a little easier to guide that leg back in over the hip. Go ahead and take your strap or your towel or your rope, whatever you're using, off of your foot. Bring your opposite right foot up. We're going to go through the same strap sequence on the opposite side. So we've got our strap on the foot as close to the base of the toes as you can without being on it. Remember, we do every stretch and pose one step at a time. We fully extend the knee. We make sure the toes are in line with the knee, not pronating out. If you have pronation syndrome or your feet like to turn out, there's a couple of things there. One, you might have a really weak arch or flat feet. Once that arch collapses, the toes have to turn out, and then everything above follows. Or you're really tight in your IT band and bicep femoris area, lateral gastroc. So when those muscles get tight, it's more comfortable, and naturally the toes are going to slowly start turning out over time. So toes in line with the knee, toes flex towards the knee. Knee is fully straight, and now we guide up into our sticking point with the strap, and we're going to relax. Remember, we take that initial belly breath or two at our sticking point. We continue to relax the rest of the body. We let everything get heavy. We don't fight the stretches. A big reason for pronation is because of modern living in footwear, shoes. So we stand on hard surfaces all day long, 5, 6, 7 hours a day at work, maybe in dress shoes, maybe not, doesn't matter. Concrete, hard surfaces. It's not meant to be that way. We get dead feet. The muscles in the feet get weak. The arch gets weak. They get complacent. Arch starts to collapse, flatten out because it's getting weak. Foot flattens, toes turn out. There's things we can do to combat these mechanical issues that are caused by modern living. That is corrective exercise. We identify muscle imbalances that are being caused by a lifestyle pattern or habit. We identify weak muscles. We identify overactive, tight muscles, and we develop a methodical corrective exercise program or plan to address those issues. Okay, here we go. Turning the toes in. Make sure the strap's in your left hand. Right arm to your side comfortable. We turn the toes in to the midline of the body as far as you can. Keeping the knee straight. We're still pulling or flexing the toes towards the kneecap. We've turned them in. That picked up that stretch. Big stretch. All from the back of the ankle, down the calves, behind the knee, those attachment points, IT band, bicep femoris, and up into the hamstrings. We'll give this a couple more breaths. We'll make our final move across where we let the hip rotate with the knee straight this time, and we'll finish over in our adductor position. Here we go. On your breath, remember, always moving with the breath. Take that leg over slowly, keeping the right arm and shoulder anchored, and we guide until we find that sticking point, which is 7 to 8 of moderate discomfort. We're not overstraining. We're not getting sharp pain. We're getting to that point of 7 to 8 of tolerance of discomfort. Somebody asked me one time how they would know the difference between pain and discomfort. That is 100% up for you to decide. You're going to find your 7 to 8 of tolerant discomfort, of whatever discomfort you can tolerate. Let's give it one more nice long breath, guiding that leg over. All right, work the leg back over the hip slowly. Take the strap in your right hand, guide it out to the right. Let your toes turn out and pronate. Anchor the left side of your body down. And we will finish here in our strap sequence. Take those nice long belly breaths. Take a few of them. Let's give it a little time. So we're in our 20 to 30 second window. And I'm sure after going through that strap sequence with me, doing both sides, you realize, if you didn't before, that you have a tighter side. One or two more long belly breaths. Good. Bend your knee, bring your leg back in slowly. Take your strap off of your foot. You can toss it off to the side. We are going to move on. Figure 4. So all of this hip twisting that we did works on glute medius, piriformis, QL muscle, that big low back erector muscle. We're going to isolate the glute medius and piriformis in case there was one of those other areas that may have restricted you in getting as good or as deep of a stretch as you could on that essential glute medius piriformis muscle, which, by the way, a lot of sciatica pain can be caused by tight glute medius piriformis, because that nerve runs right beside those muscles or sometimes right through them. And so if those muscles become really tight and overactive over time with somebody, they can put pressure and irritate that sciatic nerve. And you know that you're dealing with a nerve pain issue if you have pain that's radiating So if you have pain that doesn't stay local, like one spot that you push on, or you're going to stretch an area and it's really tight and it hurts, it's tender, that's local pain. When we have pain that feels like it travels or goes down a limb or extremity, it's pretty safe to say that it's nerve related. So if you have pain that travels down your leg, like let's say you get pain here, doesn't mean you need to stretch this area. It means you probably have something going on in the back of the hips or low back that is causing that nerve to send signals and pain down the leg. Figure 4 is how we're going to isolate that glute medius piriformis. We're going to take the left ankle, we're going to cross it right over the right thigh, just under the knee. And then we'll bring that right foot off the floor. So we have 90 degrees at the left knee, we've got 90 degrees at the right knee, because remember, 90-degree angle at the knee means we're going to focus our efforts, whether it's a strength exercise or whether it's a stretch. It means a lot of our efforts and demand is going to be put on the hips. We're going to reach through the legs with the left hand and to the right of the right leg with that right hand. We're going to reach to the outside so we can comfortably grab behind that right knee with both hands. We're going to relax our head back. We're going to keep our hips and low back heavy and as flat and relaxed as we can as we pull that right knee towards the chest. And as you pull that right knee in, you're going to feel a really good stretch right on the outer back side of that left hip. This is our figure 4 stretch. We're going to follow our process. We're going to find that first sticking point. We're going to take that initial long belly breath into it. We're going to try to relax as much as we can, and we're going to continue to do that with each following breath. Every exhale, we relax more. We try to pull and work through our sticking point a little bit more. As the tonus reduces in that area, as things start to relax. 2 breaths. Remember, today's video is all about the Lumbo-Pelvic-Hip-Complex. So posterior hip muscles, glute medius piriformis primarily, hamstrings, adductor complex, IT band, the lower leg muscles, calves, soleus, posterior tibialis, Achilles tendons. The only thing we have not addressed so far, let's give it one more breath and we'll switch sides, is the hip flexors, the muscles on the anterior or front side of the hips, which are also a mega problem area for a lot of people. Okay, relax the foot down. Uncross your left leg, follow the same steps. Take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh just under the knee. Bring your left foot off the floor. We've made our figure 4 shape, both knees at 90. We reach through the legs with the right hand to the outside of the left leg with the left hand so we can comfortably grab behind that left knee, and we're pulling it towards our chest. We're going to relax the head. We're going to keep the hips and low back heavy and relaxed. A movement compensation for overhead positions, or even when we're stretching the hamstrings or back of the hips, a movement compensation that you're going to want to do if you're really tight is to arch your low back. So the purpose of me cueing and constantly saying, relax your hips, relax your low back, let everything stay heavy, is we're trying to eliminate as many movement compensations and dysfunctional patterns as possible. Plus, you're just taking away from the stretch. So when you arch your back to get your arms more overhead or to get more range of motion in your hamstring stretch or your posterior hip stretch, all you're doing is stealing range of motion. You're taking away from the stretch, which is the opposite of what our purpose is for doing all this. Not to mention, when you arch your low back, you're obviously compressing that lumbar spine area and those discs, so you're putting unnecessary stress on those shock absorbers. You're contracting those low back muscles. You're causing those to become tight and to compress that area. So there's a lot of negatives to it. We're going to give this 1 or 2 more breaths, and then we're going to go into a forward low lunge position so I can show you the best way to stretch your hip flexors with just a mat and your body weight. Go ahead and release your feet. Let's stretch the arms and feet out real quick. So as I was just saying, in that overhead position, I guarantee you, as you just went to reach your arms overhead, you pushed your stomach up and you arched your low back. The trick to minimizing that is, as you reach overhead when you're laying down, I want you to think about pulling your stomach in. So we're going to draw the abs tight, and then you're going to flex your hips up towards the sky a little bit. So you're going to squeeze your glutes, and it's not a lot. It's just an inch or two of a flex, because you're not going to be able to go much further than that. So I'm pulling my abs in, and I'm flexing or doing a posterior tilt a little bit. And then we reach, stretch out through the fingers, stretch down through your feet, going through those cues I gave you. Before we set up, call this just a little good morning pose or good morning stretch. I wanted to throw it in to go through those cues of locking in your low back and spine, not arching the low back. You got to get out of that habit as much as possible. Okay, bring yourself up. We're going to sit up tall on the knees. We call this like a hero pose. It's going to let us set up into a forward low lunge position. I'm going to start with my right leg forward. Join me. So let's go through the cues, and remember, we take everything one step at a time to make sure we do it as perfect as possible. 90% of errors or injuries occur right from improper or poor setup. So with any type of exercise you're doing, if we set up properly and we stay mindful and purposeful, we do it one step at a time, we do it as perfect as possible, you're going to eliminate a lot of risk of injury right from the get-go, and you're going to get better stretches, you're going to have better form and technique. We've got the right foot forward, right in front of the hip. The foot right under the knee is 90. We're going to go one step further so that we've got a nice angle at the knee. This is going to allow us to push forward into our stretch in a good strong position, or it's not going to let our knee go over the toes. It's not going to make us lift our heel up. We're keeping that right foot rooted into the floor. When I say rooted, you're going to think about grabbing the floor with that foot. So the entire foot is planted firmly with even weight roughly on the base of the big toe, the base of the pinky toe, and heel. So we're using that arch. We're using the muscles in the feet. Head, chest up, shoulders back. We're going to be stretching these back left hip flexors. And the hip flexors attach from your hip all the way up to your thoracic spine. And so if we flex the spine forward at all, we're shortening and contracting those hip flexors, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. We don't want to stretch a muscle that's in a shortened position. We always want to stretch a muscle once we've put it in its fully lengthened position so that we get into those attachment points. Head, chest up, shoulders back. You do whatever you want with your hands for now. You can just keep them down to your sides. We're going to push the hips straight forward until we feel this back left knee kind of digging into the mat. That's our leverage point for the stretch. I'm going to pull my shoulders back a bit more if I can. I'm already feeling that stretch really good right here, all the way from the upper thigh, front of the hip, into the lower abdomen. We're going to practice a technique called reciprocal inhibition. We're stretching the muscles in the front of the hip. We can get a deeper, better stretch if we engage and activate the muscles in the back of the hip. So I'm going to have you squeeze those left glutes. You're going to kind of squeeze them in and try to turn them on. That's going to force these muscles in the front of the hip, which are the antagonist, to relax even more. You give a little extra stretch, get a little deeper. I'm going to take one or two more breaths into this, and then we're going to add one more thing in. So we're still in our big, tall, upright position. I'm going to have you take your left hand to the outside knee of that forward right leg, and then I'm going to have you twist and look over your right shoulder. And we're still driving the hips forward. We're twisting, looking over the right shoulder. As you twist, remember, this foot is rooted, and so we're locking this right knee in as we twist. We're not letting that right knee abduct out because that foot is rooted in. And I'm kind of locking that knee in with my left hand. So forward low lunge twist. That's going to take you a little bit deeper into that stretch. A lot of low back pain can be attributed to tight hip flexors. So when you have really tight hip flexors, it causes what's called an anterior pelvic tilt, which accentuates that arch in the low back. It causes the hips to tilt forward, so it causes your butt to stick back. The medical term for that is lordosis. So it causes an excessive arch in the lower back, and those low back muscles are now tightened. They're going to take on more work, and they're going to be involved in movement patterns where they shouldn't be, because now the hips are not in their optimal position for primary movement patterns or proper movement patterns like squatting, deadlifting. Last breath, we're going to push back. Let's go right to the other side. Draw that right leg back, bring your left leg forward, go through the cues. Remember, one step further than 90 at the knee. We're rooting the foot in. We're locking this knee in over the toes. Head, chest up, shoulders back on your breath. Push forward and find your sticking point. Get that good stretch on the front side of that back right hip. We're going to take that initial breath into it. We're going to give it a little bit of time. Just make sure we're in a strong position. And then we're going to squeeze those right glutes. Squeeze them in. Abs are in tight, head, chest up, shoulders back. We're reaching the crown of the head to the sky. Let's add in that twist. Right hand to the outside of that left knee. We're going to lock that left knee in, and then we're just going to kind of turn and rotate over that left shoulder, and we're still driving the hips forward. Let's take a few breaths to it. Squeeze the right glutes. We're trying to turn a little bit more on each exhale. We're always working through our sticking points. Every stretch, every breath. Let's give it one more. Great. Let's take the hands to the floor so you can just easily draw your knee back. Let's put the knees as wide as you comfortably can out to the edge of your mat. Put your toes together with the tops of the feet flat. Tops of the feet are flat, toes together behind us. Knees are out as wide as we can. You're probably already feeling a little stretch on your inner hips, inner thighs. We're going to push the hips back into this kind of frog pose position. And then you can bring yourself down to take some of the weight off the arms. I'm still pushing through my arms. I'm pushing the hips back. I'm getting that good stretch. Inner thighs, inner hips. Relax. Modify as needed, of course. I should have said at the beginning of the flow, if you're on a hard floor, I always recommend having layers for your mat. Several mats or even some gym flooring under your mat to keep your knees happy and feeling comfortable. It is not good to kneel on hard surfaces. Really bad on the knees, can contribute and lead to bursitis. Plus, it's just uncomfortable. Let's take one or two more breaths, flattening out as much as you can, pushing the hips back as deep as you can. We're trying to get the hips anchored as deep back onto the feet as we can with those knees nice and wide. I'm even getting a little stretch in the top of the feet and ankles because I'm pushing down the top of my feet and they're really flat. Let's give it one more breath. Perfect. Bring yourself up. That is my sample Lumbo-Pelvic-Hip-Complex flow. If you don't have a stretch strap, I really encourage you to get one. It's a great tool for a lot of this corrective exercise. Like I said, leveraging from the foot, so many benefits to stretching the hamstrings, IT band, those lower leg muscles, soleus, calf complex. And it can really, really help alleviate some chronic pain that you might be experiencing. I appreciate you joining me here on the Movement Man channel. If you haven't yet, would love for you to subscribe. I'm going to try to upload some more videos regularly on corrective exercise, things that are going to help you with your mobility, help you reduce the risk of injury and get you feeling better. Until next time, thanks guys.